Joining me now, we have New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury. She, of course, serves on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and the Natural Resources Committee. Welcome, Congresswoman. Okay, a lot to go through here. First of all, Vice President J.D. Vance called Renee Good a deranged leftist. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem referred to as a domestic terrorist who tried to run over an officer. But what is your response to the lack of humanity in their remarks? A mother of three whose kids will never see their mom again. And is the administration attempting to cover up what really happened by shutting out Minnesota officials from the investigation? And let me also add something here that Akela reported. I'm going to ask my director to put me on camera here because I want to show you this. The officer who shot her was videotaping at the same time. I'm holding my phone in my left hand as he was. He had a lethal weapon in his right hand at the same time. And Kristi Noem dares to say he was following his training and protocol. You're trained to hold the phone in one hand and shoot with another? Really?
Yeah. I mean, everything about this is just absolutely shameful, disgusting, and gaslighting the American people. You know, I think that, to your first point, to see the Vice President of the United States over and over and over again go on social media and national television and attack a victim of a crime and to have zero empathy for a mother who was shot and her family and the community and the American people is absolutely shameful and disgusting. And secondly, to watch how Department of Homeland Security has handled this case is not only unlawful, it is incompetent, because it is normal for a investigation, whether it is federal, state, or local, to have total cooperation between all of the authorities who have jurisdiction. And this is a potential murder, this is a potential federal crime, and there must be complete cooperation in the investigation. And finally, yes, any officer, any individual who's been trained in firearms handling knows that you should not be holding your damn cell phone in your hand and trying to discharge a firearm at the same time. And certainly a law enforcement official should not be doing that.
You have signed on to Illinois Congresswoman Robin Kelly's plan to bring articles of impeachment, in fact, against DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, accusing her of obstruction of justice and ethical violations. So given the political reality, look, impeachment is unlikely to succeed. Is it meant to put the administration on notice and mobilize public pressure against ICE enforcement?
I think it's all of the above. Congress's tools to hold officials accountable include impeachment. And it's not just this incident. It's important to understand that under the leadership, the so-called leadership of Secretary Noem, over 30 individuals have died in detainment. There have been multiple people shot and killed. This is the latest incident. The next day after this fatal shooting, 2 more individuals were shot on the West Coast. I mean, this is incompetent leadership. In addition to that, she's dismantling FEMA, the organization that is meant to help save American lives when there's natural disasters. And she's just parading around wearing cowboy hats and doing press availabilities. This is not leadership. And so the purpose of these articles of impeachment are to remove her because she is not fit to serve at this point. And the American people demand accountability, and we are going to seek it using every tool that we have.
So Republicans' One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it tripled ICE's budget. The Washington Post reports the agency plans to spend $100 million this year alone on a war-themed recruitment campaign to carry out its mission to, quote, defend the homeland from foreign invaders. And that's according to internal documents reviewed by the Post. Can this be interpreted as ICE encouraging brutal tactics with this hyper-aggressive messaging? I mean, do you support withholding funding unless ICE agrees to standards of conduct and training and submits to some real oversight?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that it's important to understand is that there are already internal protocols and federal laws concerning how federal law enforcement conduct themselves. And it's very clear if you review any of the footage that this individual has completely broken protocol and the existing laws governing the way that officers under federal jurisdiction should be handling and conducting themselves. And it was an excessive use of force. So the laws and checks and balances are already there. But what we've seen under this administration is that they are inciting violence. And to see the Vice President of the United States, who, by the way, is an Ivy League law school graduate, go on national television and say that federal officers have absolute immunity, one, that's a lie. But really what it is a dog whistle. He is saying to federal officers that if you are out there on the streets, you can kill with impunity. And so that is inciting violence and violating the law. And so, yeah, I mean, we just have to rein in this administration. They are clearly using federal law enforcement to terrorize the American people and now trying to cover the fact that the American people are outraged by what they're doing. And I think also, you know, when you look back at some of the videos of like Stephen Miller, for example, and Pete Hegseth, when they were meeting with National Guard before they were deployed to cities, they literally were like riling these guys up and telling them, you know, take them down. I mean, they are trying to incite violence on the streets of America.
So we are seeing some cracks in Republican solidarity. You had 5 senators voting with Democrats to rein in President Trump's unilateral military action in Venezuela, and House Republicans breaking ranks to restore Affordable Care Act subsidies. So is this the start of bipartisan checks on a president who repeatedly ignores Congress, or is it symbolic because this president repeatedly bypasses the role of Congress?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it is only the beginning, because we've watched for a year as this president has broken the law daily and violated congressional and constitutional authority. And I have been ashamed of my colleagues who have refused to speak out, who I hear on the floor and in the hallways talking about it, but who have refused to take an actual stand and vote against the president or to call him to account. So, yeah, I think that the War Powers resolution in the Senate was particularly important. And I also think his attack on some of the senators also shows that he does not want to be held accountable, and that the American people must use their voices at the ballot box in November to make sure that any senator, any House member who is not holding this president accountable, they got to go. Because this is not about personalities. This is not about individuals. This is about protecting our democracy and the American people.
I want to get one more question in on this, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, because the DOJ has released less than 1% of its records, despite the December 19th legal deadline to release the complete files. Again, less than 1%. The DOJ says it is deliberate, it's pacing to protect victims, it has 400 lawyers, 100 FBI analysts working the case. Do you believe this is a logistical bottleneck or an intentional effort to shield politically exposed individuals?
I think it is both a cover-up by the White House. The president is clearly in the files. In the first tranche of files they released, they accidentally released hundreds of references to him in the way they redacted. They even tried to remove images of him. It is very clearly a cover-up. We've watched it for months right in front of our eyes, and it's incompetence. The fact that they have been withholding files, over-redacting, and violating the law, in addition to the fact that they can't even manage a document release, is just utter and complete incompetence. And so we are going to hold them accountable. Right now, we are seeking relief through federal court to try to get a special master appointed to get those documents overseen in the release. And we were successful this week in the Oversight Committee in subpoenaing 3 more witnesses, including potential co-conspirators, who can put more information on the record. And that is very vital to this investigation, because at the end of the day, this is about justice and holding individuals who were complicit in crimes accountable, including potentially the president himself, as more evidence comes out that Mar-a-Lago was a place where young women were taken and exploited from.
That may well be, but let's just reiterate, this president has not been accused of any crime, and so I want to put that out there as well. But meantime, I thank you, as always.